You know that feeling, right? End of the day, your mind is just completely fried. It turns out our brain is this incredible high-performance engine, but here's the catch. Most of us never got the user manual. Well, today we're going to fix that. We're going to give you the guide you've been missing, and it all starts by asking one simple question. It's a feeling we all know, that sense that even if you wanted to think harder, you just can't. Look, this isn't about a lack of willpower. This is biology. And understanding that is the absolute first step to working with your brain, instead of constantly fighting against it. Because that engine in your head, it is incredibly hungry. Get this, it's a wild fact, your brain weighs only about 3 pounds, but it burns a massive 20% of your body's total fuel. That makes it, by far, the most metabolically expensive organ you have. It's a gas guzzler.
So, for the first chapter in our manual, we really need to get to know the hardware we're working with. And let me tell you, its architecture has some truly shocking, and I mean shocking, limitations.
Okay, just look at this imbalance. It's crazy, right? A tiny fraction of your body weight demands a fifth of all your energy. And you want to know the hungriest part of all? It's your prefrontal cortex. Think of it as the CEO of your brain. It handles all the planning and decision-making. And every single new idea you have spikes its demand for glucose and oxygen. It is literally expensive to think. And here's a crucial design flaw, especially if you're trying to multitask. Your brain is a serial processor. That means it handles one conscious thought at a time, period. We are fundamentally, biologically, built for single tasking. And that leads directly to our next big limitation.
This image just captures it perfectly. We like to think we have this giant gallon bucket for cognitive capacity, but we don't. We're working with a tiny 4-ounce bowl. This is exactly why trying to jam and cram a ton of information into your head never, ever works. You just can't pour a gallon of theory into a 4-ounce bowl and expect it to hold.
In fact, recent research shows just how small that little bowl is. Your brain can really only juggle about 4 independent ideas at once. Any more than that, and it just starts dropping the ball. So the key takeaway here is this. Our hardware has very real, very strict limits. So, if our hardware is so limited, what are we supposed to do? Well, that brings us to the next chapter in the manual. See, the game isn't about trying to increase your capacity. That's a losing battle. It's all about achieving clarity. It's about learning to steer through the overwhelming noise of modern life. At MIT, they have this metaphor they call the fire hose. From day one, students are just blasted with an impossible amount of work. And the test isn't to try and drink from the hose, because you can't. You'll drown. The real test is to develop the clarity to choose the few, vital things that actually matter. And here's a super practical filter for that fire hose. Before you say yes to anything, run it through this 3I model. First, is it important in the long run? Second, is it truly impactful, or is it just busy work? And third, is it irreversible? If it breaks, can you fix it? This simple framework is a lifesaver when everything feels urgent. Okay, so we get our limits. We know how to filter. But what happens when things get hard? This next part of the manual, it completely reframes the whole idea of struggle. It's not a bug in the system, it's a feature. This is a trap we all fall into, right? The second something gets difficult, the moment we feel that mental friction, our gut just screams, "This is wrong. I'm on the wrong path." But you know what? Neuroscience tells a completely different story. It's called the generation effect, and it turns out that the struggle itself is the learning mechanism. The harder your brain has to work to generate a solution instead of just being handed one, the deeper and stronger those neural pathways get wired. So let's just flip the script on this. Your brain isn't trying to avoid the struggle, it's actually seeking it out. That feeling of friction, that is literally the feeling of your brain rewiring itself, of building a breakthrough. The struggle is the fuel. And this idea leads us straight to the next principle, which is at the very core of the MIT ethos, mens et manus, which means mind and hand. True understanding doesn't come from thinking alone. It comes from doing. You can sit around and theorize all day, but I promise you, you will gain more clarity in 1 hour of actually building something than you will in 100 hours of just thinking about it. Action is the fastest way to cut through all that uncertainty. So here it is, the fail-forward action plan. It's simple. First, build the smallest, scrappiest version of your idea, today. Second, get it into someone's hands, anyone's hands, for real feedback. And third, rebuild based on what actually breaks in the real world.
You will learn so much faster by failing forward than by waiting for some perfect plan.
We've covered our hardware, our decision-making, our approach to action, but none of it, and I mean none of it, works without the most overlooked part of the entire manual, the recovery protocol.
See, your brain operates on these natural rhythms. It can maintain peak focus for about 90 minutes, and then it requires around 20 minutes of rest to actually process and consolidate that information. And here's a cool trick. Even a tiny 10-second pause during intense work lets your brain replay what you just learned at up to 20 times the speed. You're basically getting free mental reps.
This is what we call the farmer's wisdom. You can't just plow the same field day after day after day without letting it rest. The soil will lose its fertility. Your mind is no different. Rest isn't lazy. It is a biological requirement for high performance.
Okay, for the final chapter in our user manual, let's talk about how this high-performance engine of ours connects with other people. Because let's be real, success is rarely a solo journey.
We all love the myth of the lone genius, right? But it's just that, a myth. At MIT, there's a saying, you cannot graduate alone. The challenges are just so immense that your survival literally depends on collaboration, that shared struggle against impossible odds. That's what builds those unbreakable bonds.
And this leads to this fascinating idea called the imposter's advantage. Research actually suggests that feeling like an imposter, that feeling of not being the smartest person in the room, can make you a better leader. Why? Because it forces you to listen more deeply, to ask better questions, and to lead with empathy instead of just raw intelligence.
So there you have it, an owner's manual for that hungry, powerful, and surprisingly limited engine in your head. Understand its hardware, steer with clarity, embrace the friction, act before you think, rest like a pro, and connect with others. You have the navigation manual. The only question left is, where are you going to steer?